Dick Snyder. Got a couple of questions, or a two-part question regarding the event center. $32 million seems like a lot for a baseball park and event center. I've studied this a little bit, and Grand Prairie has a park, cost $20 million in seats, 5,000 people, was built in 2008. Comes with 13 luxury suites, a pool in the outfield, and a bar and grill that's open during the week. So that seems like a lot. It's a great looking park. I haven't been there, but it looks like a great park. The second part is, once you have that, the window for promoting the park really is going to be in the summer. Pretty narrow window. What kind of events will you be able to put in there that are going to be outside, and how will those draw folks in that will use the hotel?
Great questions. We know it will not be successful with what is 50 nights of ball games a year. So the developers will formulate and be required to formulate a plan to have up to 150 nights of other events. Think about what could happen there. And think about that we have looked at all these, we've been in that stadium you're talking about. I believe it takes more decor and more aesthetics to put it in downtown Amarillo, because it is mainly, there's a lot of corrugated tin in that building, a lot of structure that's not very pretty, and while it has been pretty good, it's also a larger, I think, larger than what we need. We have studied this carefully, and every city that has made a mistake on a stadium has made it too big. Oklahoma City has had 3 operators. They have sectioned off seats now because it is too big. It is unbelievably successful if it was small enough, and they have literally covered the whole upper tier with tarps now with advertisements on it, pulled those seats out and put them down below because they made it too big. Nearly every city that we talked to said if they weren't doing well, it's just too darn big. So we have a stadium now that's, I was told, it's nearly twice this size. And we will have in this proposed possibly a pool area for parties, kids parties, adult parties. We'll have an awning area where there could be other events. You could imagine a 60-foot by 60-foot stage in the center with 8, 9, 10,000 seats in there for other events, for concerts and other things. And will it fit every day in Amarillo? No. But we're modeling this literally after stadiums that are in Minnesota, and they're doing well. And other places where the weather is much worse than ours. So we have taken that into account. There is not a simple, perfect answer, but we believe the designs that have been considered so far address those concerns. They're great questions. They're questions we all want to resolve before we move further. There is the ability to make this larger too. You go up a little bit, that we, I think, propose 12 skyboxes now. If you enlarge the restrooms a little bit as you begin, you can add things. And yet, somebody asked me today, and the research that we've done, that I've done, is that it would satisfy the needs for a AA or AAA park. And that is from owners and operators that we're out talking to them. So who knows what will happen in the future in Amarillo with that. But it is not, it's why we're not supposed to call it a baseball park, which I get caught doing every day. It is a multi-use facility for lots of different events. So let your imagination wander what could happen there in our city, okay?
I may make one small addition to that, and I know more about ballparks now than I ever actually wanted to know. But, you know, there's a big issue, and I don't remember, Mr. Atkinson will recall, is that a bowl or is that an ant grade?
It's pretty much an ant grade.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a ballpark that is at grade, that is flat, and, or whether you dig out a bowl to help with wind and with weather, and that raises the cost. There's a big difference in whether you put natural turf in and spend a lot of water on that, or whether you put artificial turf in that's a very high quality. And so there are a lot of different factors, and plus, we know that had we built this 6 years ago during the big economic downturn, we would have saved a whole lot of money as well. So it's difficult to compare apples to oranges over a period of a decade or so and know exactly what the difference is. I'm assuming that $20 million, I don't really know the answer.
Well, when you go to some of these other ballparks, you do catch the vision. The one I like the best, we went down to see where the Corpus Christi Hooks play. And the vision that I was having trouble getting and I was able to get was something besides baseball. And so out beyond the right field fence, for example, guess what? There was another little ball field, little league size. And the idea is you get 2 little league teams come and play, bring all their parents right before the game starts in the big park. And when they're finished, they go to the party deck and they have hot dogs and Cokes and so on. and there's a rock climbing wall, and there's a water feature, and there was a pool out there. So it's all these other things that will make it a family-friendly venue and allow you to make other things happen. The part I haven't figured out as to how to get the ship and the bridge that were out beyond center field up here, but we're working on it.
We know from surveys that 50% of the people leaving these ballparks we're talking about don't have any idea what the score was.
Laura, go ahead.
Laura Street, and thank you so much for all the time and effort you put into this. I see a huge annual festival coming on to the city of Amarillo. My question is, during construction, there are more than one individuals, more than one entity that's working on this project. Those businesses and organizations and people who utilize this area of downtown, is there one person that we go to or one of your groups that we go to for questions and information and help when we need to rearrange the parking or whatever we need to do?
There will be multiple players involved, and yes, there will be some confusion involved, but we hope to keep the control with the city staff in particular, as the interface with the local community groups. So you don't have to figure out which version of contractor floating through today is the one you have to deal with. They're not going to talk to you anyway because you're not going to have a hard hat and they won't let you on. Okay.
I think a more comparable facility, you mentioned Corpus, I think, that was your favorite one. I believe the cost of that one in 2005 was $25 million. So.
Commissioner?
Commissioner Kelly, H.R. Kelly, our county commissioner. We spoke with Wynn. I think we haven't even been around here. We have to be worried about it. My question is that you haven't addressed the public safety issue yet for downtown. Could you tell us a little bit about what the plans are there?
We've been discussing the actual impression that maybe there was a public safety issue in downtown for a long time. And in fact, since I've been on the council, we have actually used special police units that have started to go down. I know I spent one Sunday morning at 2 a.m. watching how the police specialized in going down and making sure it was safe for individuals. I certainly felt safe at that time. In addition, there's been discussions all along with the major property owners downtown of the creation of a public improvement district. And that's not unlike what you have in the Greenways or the Colonies or many other kind of neighborhoods. And there's been a discussion of potentially partnering with the public improvement district to have Amarillo police officers there along with private security officers during high volume times to help increase the public presence. I would in fact envision folks on bikes, people on foot, and who knows, during a big event, maybe horseback.
We know too from studies that activity breeds the solution to that. And as there's more activity, the next big step for downtown is getting more people living there. We've increased some of the basic housing there, but to have some housing in downtown will change that dramatically. And we know already that the patterns have changed for where people hang out. And we know that will be addressed over time, but that, like the traffic through downtown, comes with time. And yet it is being considered. There are special things that police have done to address that, and we know it's important, we know it's critical, and we will continue to address that. That's an evolving factor in our whole society right now, so we'll keep addressing that.
Do you have another question? There's one right here.
My name is Miles Forrester. Appreciate y'all offering this presentation to us. The question I had is kind of open-ended one, but it's something I saw that I'm not clear on. This is under the convention hotel, the county board for security for the dead makes reference to state sales tax and hotel occupancy tax rebate. And one of you or somebody had mentioned earlier that was regulated by state statute or something to that effect. Can somebody expand on what that means?
I think what we were trying to say is there is a revenue stream coming to this hotel operator from having a hotel that works and putting heads in beds. But then there's also the effect of a revenue stream by, for example, the tier's 90% rebate. And so what you're looking at on the paper here is the total cash flow that's coming into the project. So the lender who put up the $45 million or 35, whatever the number ends up being, has those cash streams to look to secure the fact that facility is going to continue to operate. The hotel motel tax that we're talking about is tied to this facility. So if this hotel is not built, there is no money. If this hotel is built, there's more tax money. But instead of the tax money going in, the tax money is going back to the hotel operator to incentivize them to get this done for a limited number of years as provided by statute.
That's by state Texas statute.
Yes,
So,
right.
this hotel, if I spend if I charge $100 there, the hotel's gonna charge me $108.25, and the hotel in effect will end up keeping the entire $108.25 that I pay.
I think simplified, yes. I think it basically cycles back around
Right.
to that hotel. Okay. Judge?
Are you going to address the ballpark, or are you gonna lay it out and then we ask questions? It seems like we just jumped right into the ballpark.
We're actually not talking about the ballpark tonight, except you almost can't not talk about it. But
Are you ready for the question you know I've got?
well, you just lay the question on me, we'll deal with it.
I am involved, and Richard and I have been friends forever. I'm for the facility, we need it. You understand it needs to be the quality it is, because you really want to try to get an affiliated team. AA, there are at this time 5 leagues operating in the state of Texas. Only one is affiliated, that's the Texas League. You're gonna have the best stadium of any of those eight ballparks. You'll be better than Corpus, obviously. You're gonna be bigger than 4 of those cities. Anyway, be that as it may, who's going to run the ballpark? The multiple event center, who's going to run it? Is the city, the LCG, who's going to run it?
I don't know how to run a ballpark,
Okay.
and it's not gonna be me.
Right, who?
And it's not gonna be Mayor Harpole or the next mayor.
Right, who?
So there will be an operator. And at the moment, the operator is Wallace Bajali. They will build it. They will then go out and find the ball team. They'll go out and find the other.
And it's the finding that I have a question about.
Okay?
When the county had a problem with their ballpark, they sent out RFPs, I think that's what they call it, requests for proposals. And they had 3 people go in and make proposals. I've seen no such enterprise from Wallace Bajali. Now, this is taxpayer money, right? This is $32 million of our money, right? Can somebody answer that?
To construct the facility, yes.
Wallace Bajali has no money in it.
Well, they're gonna have to have money in it or it's not gonna work.
Wallace Bajali's gonna have money in it?
Yes, they are.
How much?
I don't know how much they're going to have in it.
Am I safe in saying the majority of the money is taxpayer funds?
The facility will be built with taxpayer funds.
And are you and I both correct that there is a basic premise that's been part of the state judicial, et cetera, that you don't extend the credit of the state or the county or the city without bidding on it? Same as and I know you have a legal right to do this. I know you can set up a 501(c), which you have done, and you can contract with Wallace Bajali or anybody who wants to. But still, the buck stops there, Mr. Mayor. The buck stops with you guys. You should have that baseball team up for a bid. You could find a better offer than what you've got now. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's just pure democracy. That's what it's all about.
It is critical to the city that the baseball park be successful. as we haven't discussed every detail of this for legal reasons until tonight, some of that needs to be reserved, Judge Goff, until those things are finalized. There are agreements in place. We are honoring those as we progress. You've seen changes now with management of the current team. They want to be the operator of this. They will have to prove, just as these other people do, that they will be able to be the operator. But that, at this point, is a discussion between Wallace Pajali and them. And we don't know what the future will bring exactly with that, but we promise you that the protections will be laid as they were with the hotel, and we will protect the taxpayers in this.
So what you're telling me, it will not be out to bid?
Well, now.
I mean, that's just, that was my question. When you have people who want to use the multiple events facility, are they gonna come to the city?
Judge, actually, 2 years ago, we did issue, Wallace Pajali, who is in charge of that aspect of the project, did issue a request for proposals publicly, and they got one response, and that was from Southern Independent Baseball. And that's the response they got. And that's the relationship that they've been working with at this point.
And if there were other people who were interested, now this is, okay, I mean, if you're saying, and do you know how they did that?
Is there somebody, we gotta do, this is not an area that I've talked about in 6 months. Is there somebody who wants to field this question? Mr.
I
Manager?
can try to, I don't have the dates before me. Thank you. Judge, beginning March, April 2011, Amarillo City Council had contracted with Wallace Pajali under what was then the Master Developer Agreement, go forth, figure out what the project should be, how they should be paid for, what they're gonna look like, feel like, etc. As part of that process, they did conduct an RFP. One of them was conducted for an operator for a baseball team. There was one respondent, that's the team we know today as the Amarillo Sox, through Southern Independent Baseball, owned by Gary Elliston, represented here locally now by Stephanie and Toby Tucker. Despite Potter's prior RFP, when there had been multiple responses, that was the one that was received. That team of management at that time came to a meeting, was held in the Amarillo City Council chambers, appeared before the Local Government Corporation Board, Wallace Pajali, etc. Same time that architects and others were invited in for discrete elements of those projects. So they did go through that. Does it look exactly like one that would be issued by the city or another political subdivision? Not exactly, but they followed the same process and procedure so that we could show stuff.
When you say not exactly, do you know what they did?
Do I? Yeah, and I'm sorry, in what manner?
Do you know how they put articles in baseball journals, or whether they talked to other leagues, or
It was well posted and publicized. I can't tell you exactly where, but we can certainly find out.
Then you did what you're supposed to do. And if you did so, I apologize. How's that?
Jolly did.
Well, no, but I'm still troubled. What, are you gonna do the same thing down the road? There's gonna come a point in time, you can't just say these guys operate taxpayers $32 million facility. At some point in time, there has to be some responsibility. Maybe there's a football team wants to go, or maybe there's a soccer team, or there'd be all kinds of uses, and the mayor is exactly right. But those things should be probably a little more publicized, I would think, than you're talking about something that you seem to know about. I don't know anything about it. There's some people who contacted me with the baseball league, as a matter of fact, of some consequence. Matter of fact, they're above the American Association as far as the baseball taking over. And they've just moved into Sugarland, Texas. They weren't contacted. I mean, I know that for a fact. Anyway, just, if you guys did it, that's fine. And I hope the baseball, clearly the baseball park is gonna work. I mean, I keep them in that building and they will come. I don't think any question, you guys did a good job on that. I just was concerned that you have maybe, what's the term I want to use? Given too much responsibility to people who are not elected. Is that a fair statement?
Well, we hope it's a fair statement, and we
you
didn't
hope
do it.
that- And you hope I'm wrong again.
I hope you're wrong again. Thank you, Judge.
saw the previous plans from a long time ago and haven't seen any recent ones. And I noticed that the government and civic district extends to 11. And I thought that originally it went to 10. Is that a correct statement or was I wrong with that?
I'm not sure which district you're talking about.
It's in the blue here.
Is that the parking zones you're talking about?
10 to 11.
Okay.
Okay, that portion is the land study. So study was done on that area about what's happening with that land. The tier zone, so everybody's clear, runs basically from the railroad tracks to the east, the railroad tracks to the north, Washington to the west, and the freeway to the south, with a portion carved out so we don't go above the 10% allowance for residential within the tiers. Everything in the tiers is defined by the Attorney General. It's been tested and true across the state, and we are restricted and have to submit any tiers to the Attorney General for approval. So that part is tested. We will have other studies that signify certain areas of downtown, and that particular one you're looking at is simply the land study.
Okay, the reason I was concerned is because we own part of that property, it's now in the blue. And so we were concerned, is there gonna be changes in zoning or changes in what we could do with the property or?
It is not a zoning issue.
Okay.
Okay, that would continue as it has in the past if there needs to be any change.
Okay, so one more question.
Certainly.
And that was a tough act to follow, let me tell you.
It's a tough act to answer.
The lady earlier asked about if there was one person to contact or someone to contact. And so we would maybe have a question as to how the property that we own could be utilized in some way.
Well, let me make a general suggestion about that. Obviously, there are different entities that have different responsibilities. The LGC, the DAI, the Center City. You can call the city at any time you want to find out where to go with your question. If you don't get a good answer there, write this down. This is my cell phone number, 679-0911. I do not know why the last four numbers are the same as the emergency number. It is a coincidence. I try and explain that to second graders, they don't understand. I am happy to take calls and get you referred to the right department, and the city is too. And there will be, because there's so many overlapping questions. And in times, I'm sure, as we have in the past, you'll get the city and they'll say, oh, we need to bring DAI into this in a discussion. Or it crosses over into Center City or the LGC. So for us to give you a clear one number phone number, use mine. 679-0911. If you call me at 2 in the morning, you get the answer at 3 in the morning the next day. That's fair.
I'd like to make one clarification, just in response to the judge's question. When we originally had our lease and development agreement, all three of the projects were together. And because of the nature of how this has developed, we've carved two of the projects out. That's the garage and the hotel, and that's what we're bringing to you today. This is the reason we don't have the final detail on the ballpark, because that is yet to be negotiated, and we are jumping on that, I think, what time is this meeting over? This meeting's over. But the preliminary, don't leave, the preliminary source of fundings for the ballpark is that bonds are going to be issued by the city of Amarillo that are going to be paid for by hotel and motel tax revenue generated from people who come to visit in the city. I didn't want to leave this meeting with the impression that we were going to issue ad valorem tax bonds that were going to go to the property owners of the city of Amarillo. That's not the way that's going to be funded. People who are visiting the city are going to generate tax revenue, and that's going to be used to pay these bonds out.